In this podcast episode, Richard Miniter explores the complex history of news, journalism, opinion, and censorship. The conversation delves into how different historical epochs shaped conflicting ideas about news, the evolution of censorship, the rise and role of journalism, and the challenges faced by media in the digital age. The dynamics of trust, media funding, the impact of unions and professionalization on journalism, and the future of news in an internet-driven world are also examined. Richard Miniter traces the origins of news back to ancient human storytelling and cave drawings, emphasizing that early human communication was largely oral and speculative rather than factual news. News protoforms began in ancient Rome with the Acta Diurna, public daily announcements meant to counter rampant rumors and provide the citizenry with a shared set of facts to maintain social peace. The Roman model was authoritarian and government-controlled, but recognized the need for common knowledge to prevent chaos. The narrative shifts to the 1400s along the Rhine River, particularly focusing on the emergence of free speech ideas derived from Protestant religious traditions amidst intense religious conflict in Europe. The invention of Gutenberg's movable type press in Mainz empowered the spread of varied opinions and religious tracts, fostering a marketplace of ideas and the beginnings of independent news outlets, accountable primarily to paying readers rather than the state. This era laid the groundwork for the concept of free speech as necessary for social peace and tolerance, the idea that individuals have a personal relationship with truth and God, influencing political and economic thought. The Dutch influence on New York, originally New Amsterdam, brings Dutch tolerance and free speech notions to America. The famous 1735 John Peter Zenger trial established truth as a defense against libel in colonial New York, a revolutionary development in English-speaking jurisprudence. Despite elite fear of accountability and public ridicule, Zenger's acquittal reinforced press freedom and the principle that journalists could report truthfully about those in power without punishment, a foundation of modern American journalism. With the Industrial Revolution came mass printing innovations, such as the penny press, which expanded newspaper circulation significantly and introduced correspondents reporting news from distant places. The telegraph revolutionized news transmission, and newswire services like Reuters and the Associated Press emerged, though differing in governmental control between countries. Competition and audience accountability solidified the principle that news must remain credible and market-driven to survive. From the late 19th century into the early 20th century, a wave of progressive intellectuals, some influenced by European socialist ideas, sought to professionalize and control journalism beyond mere market demands. They believed the public craved sensational or trivial news, and that journalism should instead shape societal values and be run by trained professionals. This led to the founding of journalism schools, ethical codes, awards like the Pulitzer Prize, and attempts to unionize journalists, which met resistance but eventually succeeded, creating a powerful news cartel with centralized control tendencies and an aversion to dissent. The discussion addresses the intrinsic challenges of censorship throughout history, particularly in Europe, where Crown and Church sought to control printing from Gutenberg's time onward. While censorship could seem effective short-term, it often backfired by generating sympathy for persecuted groups and feeding public doubt. The paradox emerged as censorship was embraced and enforced by various political regimes, only to be weaponized against former proponents, demonstrated starkly by the Weimar Republic's escalating censorship before the rise of the Nazis. The podcast touches on modern-day challenges of misinformation, conspiracy theories, and platform moderation. Unlike historical censorship imposed by governments, today's digital platforms face complex dilemmas, balancing freedom of speech with preventing real-world harm. Legal precedents and common law principles provide guidance on allowed speech, but the effectiveness of current moderation models is questioned. Instead of central control, a more personalized, user-driven moderation approach is proposed to better handle diverse preferences and content sensitivities. The erosion of trust in traditional media is likened to a personal relationship betrayal, resulting in skepticism toward historic institutions such as the BBC or major newspapers. While acknowledging their past accomplishments and continuing value, the hosts recognize the profound damage done by perceived dishonesty, prompting audiences to seek alternative sources, often more fragmented and less reliable, leading to polarization and a rebounds effect of embracing untrustworthy voices. Richard Miniter envisions a future transformed by technology and artificial intelligence, which can verify authenticity, automatically fact-check, and translate global information, drastically lowering the cost of investigative journalism. This future would allow wider participation from diverse viewpoints, including voices from outside traditional media hubs, creating a richer, more complex news ecosystem. The challenge lies in avoiding dominant professional gatekeeping while leveraging technological tools to produce credible news. The conversation laments the decline in investigative journalism due to its high costs and the shrinking budgets for serious reporting. Iconic examples like the Boston Globe's Spotlight investigation into Catholic Church abuses underscore investigative journalism's crucial societal role in uncovering corruption and wrongdoing. Such work demands professionalism, curiosity, and resources often absent from today's mainstream media, risking a loss of accountability if not revived. Concerns are raised about foreign interference and bot-driven amplification of conspiracy theories and divisive content online. While native conspiracy thinking exists, much of the virality surrounding extreme, revisionist, or hateful narratives is artificially manufactured by foreign adversaries aiming to destabilize Western societies. The episode critiques current regulatory and disclosure deficiencies, suggesting that mandatory transparency of foreign funding in media could help mitigate undue influence. While advertisers are sometimes accused of controlling content, the podcast argues that advertisers primarily reflect audience demographics rather than dictate news narratives directly. News markets respond to consumer demand, whether for entertainment, sensationalism, or serious reporting, creating economic incentives shaping content. The interplay of market forces and journalistic ethics continues to influence how news is produced and consumed across platforms. Miniter identifies two competing models of news that have existed since ancient times and are now clashing on modern platforms like Twitter, rebranded as X, and YouTube. One is an official, central, often static version of reality controlled by gatekeepers and experts. The other is a dynamic, decentralized, and contested marketplace of ideas where truth is provisional and continuously challenged. The outcome of this death match will determine how societies perceive reality and truth in the coming decades.